Folks, today is Christmas morning for me. This next guest is somebody, and I'm not even kidding, since I started watching this show about 3 years ago, my girlfriend got me into it, and I really fought hard against it, and I ended up loving it. And now I live and breathe it, not just the UK version, but the USA version as well. And one of the key components of this series is the narrator. This man walks us through this entire series, not only keeping us up to date with what is happening, but how making fun of the show itself sometimes in a way. I think truly this man is a genius. Not only is he a narrator of Love Island and Love Island USA, he is a stand-up comedian. He is a podcast. He hosts his podcast, 39 episodes in, of a podcast called Murder They Wrote with his wife, Laura Whitmore. This man almost was a lawyer. Well, we're going to find out about that. I'm just over the moon to have him today. He is the one, the only Ian Stirling.
Hi
Ian,
there.
welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Like you promised, you did warn me that introduction would make me feel uncomfortable, and that every British bone in my body wants to be sardonic and undercut everything you just said. But I really do appreciate it. It's very
Okay, as
kind
long as
of
you're
you.
not going to hit me. That's the only thing.
No, God, no.
No, I mean,
that'll be towards the end for the clip.
listen, I just got to start it off with something completely embarrassing and just humor me in this, because every time I watch one of your episodes, you started off every episode with kind of what's going to happen, and then you say, tonight. But you do.
I don't do it in a sort of Spanish accent. That was
No,
beautiful.
Listen, I'm not good with
You
voice
sounded
work.
like Antonio Banderas there.
I'll take it. But you say it differently every time.
We deliberately record it every time.
I feel like I've heard you do it 800 different ways.
Yeah.
Is there any possible way in my Antonio Banderas accent I could do a tonight off with you? Just
Of course.
3 tonights.
Okay. What do you want to do? Different emotions, or are we just
Different
doing
emotions.
three big ones?
Hey, you're the artist. Whatever you feel.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Should I start off with my horrible one?
Yeah.
And then-
No,
okay.
it's not.
Okay.
It's not horrible.
Okay,
It's just very more European than I was expecting.
Tonight. How dare you, Ian?
No, it's great. I just don't know why. I didn't know I was that Spanish.
Okay.
Right. Tonight.
Well, okay.
That's how I do it. Go really dark. This is like a really dark episode. Someone's breaking up with somebody.
Tonight.
You done it 8. That's a Scottish in you. That was great.
Okay, great. Now you try one.
I'll do a really dark one. Something horrible's happened in the villa. Tonight.
Yeah. So, okay. What should I do with this one as?
This is like this is like a more wacky one. Like
Okay.
they're just doing a challenge. They're like throwing pies in each other's faces. It's kind of cute.
Tonight. Okay.
I do tighten my throat. I don't know why. I think it's become more and more a parody of itself as it's gone on. But I really enjoy doing it.
Sometimes if I guess how you're going to do it that night, it's like watching the show House Hunters, where if I pick, like, if I know the house they're gonna pick, I feel excited about the rest of my day. And sometimes I'll be there in bed and I'll be like, yes, tonight was out of the park.
I'm going to really focus in on that next series, actually. See if people can like message me or whatever and see if they can predict it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I do want to point out to the audience, you are, like I said, a stand-up comedian. You're in New York right now. You have a show on the 21st at the Gramercy Theater. You can get your tickets now. I'm sure this is going to sell out any second, so make sure you get it. You also have one at the Bell House in Brooklyn the next night.
Yeah.
That is sold out.
That is sold out. The Gramercy was like an extra one.
My God. I mean, does that feel good?
Yeah, well, like me and my wife love New York. My wife works in the same industry as me, and she always comes out for like Fashion Week and stuff. So she was doing Fashion Week at the start of the month, and I had this gig at the end of the month. And we picked the Bell House because, to be honest, it's got just like seats you put in a room. So we were like, if it doesn't sell well, we can put people around tables. It'll be fine. And I just wanted to be in New York, where our child will start school soon, so we can't like up sticks as much down the line. So we thought, we'll just do a month, we'll see what happens. And then, purely coincidentally, Love Island just sort of went crazy, and then that show that I thought, if I can get 50 like British people here on their holidays to come, that'd be great. And then it's sold out, and we've added some more, and yeah, everyone's been really nice. I've been to like the VMAs. It's been crazy.
That's right. You came from the VMAs last night. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it's like really full on. It's like such a stereotype, I guess, from British people. But like I've done the EMAs, and I've done like British Music Awards and stuff, the Brits and stuff. And it's all really cool. But like America just has that extra gear in it that you're like, this is crazy.
Did you watch the whole show?
The whole thing.
What stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I'm a millennial, so like Katy Perry, I was like losing it when she started singing "I Kissed a Girl." I was like, I couldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like elbowing 18-year-old girls out of the way with their Sabrina Carpenter t-shirts on. I was like, move, Perry's on.
Well, no, I mean, I was thinking about that of you going to these kind of public events, and to me, you're like Batman. Is that nobody particularly knows what you look like? I mean, overseas they do, but here, and then you open your mouth and you're like, my God, it's Ian Stirling.
Yeah, we had a few. There's a few housewives sat behind us from the TV show.
Wait,
not just random housewives. I don't want any room I walk in. I go, who's a housewife? Right now, hands up. New Jersey
Wait,
ones.
do you know which housewife sat behind you?
New Jersey ones. I can't remember.
Oh, like Teresa.
It was
Teresa Giudice?
Yeah.
Wow. She flipped a table one time in an episode.
Do you know what? I met her. She was an absolutely wonderful woman, but she's got a table flip in her.
No. Yeah.
In a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of idea. They're like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, I like do the voiceover for Love Island. And they're like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, and they went, wait a minute. Do you see Tonight? And I was like, yeah. And they were like,
I love that. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, does it ever get annoyed? Like just me going Tonight? Like, because it's so iconic.
Do you know what's funny about it? I think after a while, it wasn't that it got annoying for me, but like I've stopped doing it as much in the UK only because, as you can imagine, and it's really fun. It's people's idea for me to do the sort of voiceover thing. But if I do it on every show, it gets to the point where I think the public think that I've asked to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like every show, people are like on like Twitter back then. They were like, "What? This guy's obsessed, man. He's done it again." I'm like, "No, I'm like quite amenable and cool. So if someone asked me to do it, but now that I'm in America, it feels like a sort of clean slate. It's like all new again. So it's like and again, it's not lost to me. Like when Love Island went massive the first time around, and it became big in like not big, but like culty in like the US and stuff. Obviously, that's really fortunate. That doesn't happen to many people. So when it happened a second time with the US one, it's like a blessing, right? So it'd be so naive to be like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. And I do really enjoy it, and I'm really like proud of it.
Yeah.
So like, I love doing it.
The show started and you started working on it. Was it 2015, 2017?
Oh God. About 2015, 2015.
And I know you've probably answered this 1,000 times, but can you take us through that journey? Because I know you were in law school, right?
Yeah, I was literally in law school, yeah.
And then you were like doing comedy competitions, and then what made you decide to stop going the law path and start going into the comedic path?
Well, I was doing law at university, and at law I did stand up like a lot of like, people do.
Yeah.
Like, sort of geeky kid that wanted a bit of attention. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then while I was still at university, I got like picked up to do children's television on the BBC. So it's like children's BBC. So I was still at uni, and they offered me the job. I had like 6 months left on my degree. So they were really cool about it. And they were like, finish your degree and then you can start. So obviously my degree, it's so hard to study when you think you're going to be a lawyer, but when you're a lawyer that's got a job as a kids TV presenter already, it was like really hard. So my degree sort of fell by the wayside. I've done loads and loads of gigs, and I started on kids TV, and I did that for like 4 or 5 years, and then one of the shows I did was a show called Who Let the Dogs Out, and there was a girl called Ashley. She had a dog called Pudsey, and they won. I'm not saying Britain's Got Talent's not as good as American's Got Talent, but
I'll say it is, yeah.
Ashley and Pudsey won, and she made her dog do tricks. Like the dog walked backwards, and she won Britain's Got Talent. And basically she'd go speak, and they'd go ruff. And Simon Cowell obviously loves dogs. He was like, "This is amazing."
You're the next One Direction.
Yeah, I'm about to say, he's like, "Harry, you're out." Pudsey's in. He walks backwards on demand. And but they done a show where they got kids to like train their dogs to do tricks, and I done the voiceover on that show. Obviously nobody watched it. It was like a kids TV show, but someone somewhere at Love Island saw that show and they wanted that
Which is
accent.
insane because Love Island is such an adult show.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing because I got kids TV when I first started doing stand-up, and I don't know how many stand-ups you like talked about. When you first start doing stand-up, you're sort of like, particularly back in like 2009, you do sort of like really offensive stuff, not because you want to, but because if you can't, any sort of reaction is a reaction. So even if it's something. So you can imagine all the topics that people talk about when they first started doing comic and they're still trying to refine it. So like my stand-up was pretty offensive and they gave me Kids TV. I was like, this is mad. And then from Kids TV, they gave me Love Island. I was like, this is sort of bananas. So I basically went from like reading out kids' birthday cards to like watching people fuck.
Hey, make love. We say make love in America.
Watching people make love.
Well, and this is...
Sorry, make sweet, sweet fuck. They were making
There we
sweet,
go.
sweet fuck.
This was it's ITV, right? And nobody
ITV.
Did anybody expect this to be a hit?
No, I actually said sort of no to it the first few times. I wasn't really a reality TV person, and like one of the reasons I decided to do it, and I'm saying this now as someone that loves Love Island, and actually it's been my gateway drug into like reality TV in general.
Oh, good.
So like,
wait. Gateway. What other reality shows?
well,
did you
at
start
the minute,
watching?
at the minute, I am so all encompassed by Selling Sunset. It's unbelievable.
Did you watch the new season?
I'm far enough in. I'm into Chelsea's dramas.
Her husband cheating on her, and then it got brought up on camera.
Yeah.
Did you get to the Who Owns Pioneer Town yet?
No, we've been to Pioneer Town, but I don't know anything about who owns it.
Well, the new real estate agent says her and her husband own it, and then Pioneer Town, the town actually made a statement against her saying, you do not own Pioneer
But
Town.
when it done the whole, do you know when it panned, I'm so good with square foot now because of Selling Sunset. Am I the only one?
You know backsplashes, you know the
I
whole
like
thing.
walking into people's rooms. I go 80 square foot. I'm what?
I don't. You know more than they do. Like,
yeah, I'm so qualified. But yeah, but when Pioneer Town was shown on screen, it said how much the rental a week was for that property, not how much it was worth. So that immediately made me think, well, she doesn't own it. She's
and it
renting
was like $30,000. Had no pool.
No pool.
In Joshua Tree. But, okay, sorry to interrupt your actual origin story there. But
no, listen. Pray for Chelsea. I think we need to make this happen.
And the thing is, now we're hearing with Chelsea is that she knew before that, but Bree brought it up on camera, and she wasn't supposed to bring it up on camera.
That's where I'm right in the middle of who orchestrated the bringing it up on camera. Was it Bree's idea or was it not? And Bree's just being really sassy and brilliant about it.
I love fourth wall breaking now, and I mean, even in Love Island, you see that a little bit from time to time.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that on Selling Sunset when they were like, who chose to put it on camera, or who chose to... I was like, I don't know if I like this. But I suppose people know now and they don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all adults and we accept that there are cameras. We realize that the magic. But Love Island is so perfect because, I mean, to explain to the audience, if you don't watch Love Island,
where have you been?
Yeah, what the hell are you? I mean, are you even American at this point? But I mean, there's cameras literally everywhere. You look anywhere, there's like cameras on every angle, on top of an actual camera crew, I would imagine as well.
Yeah. So when I used to go out to Spain, and I was like friends with all the camera guys and all that, and they've got little like hides. It sort of has a sort of zoo quality to it. There's just guys in hides 24/7, like moving the cameras around.
I mean, I sometimes wonder about those camera guys having to film like makeout scenes or the night, and I'm just like, they have to go home to their families and go, yeah, I watched somebody try to get in somebody's pants tonight.
Yeah,
and how
it
insane
sort
that
of
must
reminds
be.
me of, because now everyone says Barry Keoghan improvised that scene in Saltburn. I've always got a really funny image in my head of the camera guy as he's filming it, and it just sort of starts to unfold.
He's like, what am I doing with my life?
He's call his wife, I'm going to be late. Barry's on one.
He's improving now.
He's Willie's out. He's Mickey's out.
Okay, so Love Island starts. Nobody really thinks that's going to be a hit. You turned it down at first. And then how soon into the run of the show did it kind of catch fire over there?
The first series so there's a bit of context here as well, because like the first series didn't do particularly well on television. Like it did fine, but not for like the amount of money spent, but it had quite a lot of pickup online. But back then, a bit of pickup online was like, no one really... They wanted people to watch on telly, so but it done well enough online, because I think the thought of we have to transition onto like streamers and clips and stuff had started, so it's done quite well there. And then series 2, it sort of became a big show relative, because it's on a channel called ITV2, which is like a sort of digital channel, so relative to the size of the channel. And then 3 and 4, it just went absolutely like actually bananas. And I just remember like. That's when like 5 or 6 WhatsApp groups getting made up. I'm added in, and people like, tell us what's happening. And yeah, so it took about 3 series to really get going, and the 4th one was sort of mad. Like,
And were you doing stand-up the entire time?
yeah, the whole time. Like, I remember like when the show like blew up, it was sort of mad because I had a tour booked in, but then I added dates because Love Island went mad. So I think over one weekend I went to Brighton and did like a room above a pub to like 50 people. Then the next night I was at the Hammersmith Apollo, which is like 3,500 people. But like obviously that's because the tour was booked before and Love Island happened and it went crazy. Now we've hit a sort of comfortable plateau, but at that point, I used to walk out with a Love Island water bottle for like a joke on stage. Just like because comedians drink water, and I thought I'll have a water bottle. People, it was like I had walked on stage with Post Malone. People were like losing their mind at this water bottle.
Do people constantly scream out like Molly May? Do you get any kind of, because people are so excited to see you and meet you?
Yeah, the only thing, and this is a total ego thing. The only thing that slightly annoys me, the thing I get shouted at the most is I've got a text, which is fine, but that is the only catchphrase on the show that I don't say. Because the Islanders say I've got a text, I don't say I've got a text.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
go, oh, I've got a text. Well, never said it. Never said it.
No,
I mean,
it's true.
I say it in real life.
Yeah. I would imagine, yeah.
Got a text.
I've got a text. Oh my God. I just wonder those things that follow you around, just like the Tonight, and then you just...
Yeah, the Tonight. Do you know what? I really feel that's more, it's more picked up in America than the UK. I think maybe because it's my accent's more like sort of odd to the ear or something.
It's not, I mean, listen, dude, you're my Morgan Freeman. You're my David Attenborough. I want you to narrate my life.
Imagine me doing that March of the Penguins.
Oh my... Well, let's get on it. And I was going to ask...
That is a redub no one wants to see, but I will do it regardless.
That's a complete lie. I want you to redub that. We'll put it in a special.
Frozen Planet of England. The starfish is in the sea.
How has your stand-up evolved? I mean, you're starting off probably extremely filthy, saying whatever would get a reaction. As you've gotten older, and I was watching clips of your stand-up, and you're talking about parenthood, you're talking about all of these things. How have you grown, and who are the stand-ups when you got into all of this that you were like, I'd love to be that person one day?
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about stand-up is it's happening more in America now, but in the UK we've got a thing called the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
So you've got to do an hour show every year, and it's got to be a new hour. So comics in the UK write an hour's new material like every year, which is changing a bit now in America. But like America, it was all about working up like your set, and you work on it for years and years and years, and you get it into like really short, sharp chunks, so you can do them on like late night shows and stuff like that. Because your turnover is higher, I think you throw away more like where you're from. Like there's a lot less comic in the UK, which is like my dad's from here, my mum's from here, because you use all that to begin with. And then once that's all gone, you've got to sort of go deeper in and think, how do I actually think and feel about things? So I think that's made a bit more cerebral or whatever. But growing up, I was like, I'm from Scotland, so like legally you've got to love Billy Connolly. Like,
all right,
you've got to. And I'm a big Bill Burr fan as well. I think
that's what I was reading. I read your Bill Burr, because there was an interview where you were like, "Oh, I used to compare myself or wanted to be like Sarah Silverman or Bill Burr or something like that," and then kind of realizing like you're you, and what you are is amazing as well.
Yeah, I think that's how everyone starts out doing everything, right? You just sort of copy what you like, and then hopefully you like enough things that you're not like any of them because you're trying to copy so many people.
Yeah, like it takes you decades to find your own voice.
And I'm lucky because I've got this accent as well. Like I sometimes think, am I doing like the mannerisms of the accent of a comic that I like? But because of the way I am, I literally cannot do that. I physically can't, even if I'm trying, I can't do that. Yeah. But yeah, I used to like be obsessed with Sarah Silverman. And then I'm like, my favorite band of all time are a band called Frightened Rabbit. And when the lead singer Scott passed away, Sarah was like on the album, like dedicated to him, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I could love this woman anymore. She like seems like all the stuff that I like. So yeah, there's loads of. I really like American. What I like about American comedy is like this sort of like no nonsense, like the no nonsense, straight to the pointness of it.
Yeah,
I really like that. And in the UK, we do more like story shows, and everything sort of links together. Whereas like American shows, are like they finish on their last joke, and they're like, "That's me, good night." Whereas Britain's more like, "And that's when I discovered the meaning of life." And there's like a slow blackout.
Amazing. I mean, look, I was looking at your dates. 2025. You're overseas. You've already sold out like pretty much your entire run of shows in 2025 already.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? I mean, I would like to think that's all down to my stand-up, but I would like to thank ITV and ITV America.
Listen, whatever gets them in. Okay, so back to Love Island though. This is obviously everybody wants to know is how is the mechanics work for your work in this show? How has it changed over the seasons? And then adding USA into the mix as well. I feel like right now you're like a footballer on the off season where no Love Island, you're like you're good.
Just beers and Katy Perry for me at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, good for you. But like, what is the process that goes behind the artistry here?
So, well, it's sort of mad now the way it's worked. Now the Love Island UK and the US ones match up, so they almost perfectly fall on top of each other in terms of dates, which is manic over that time, but I like it because it means I've got a bit of a summer. Like before, it was like 4 months of Love Island USA and Love Island UK. But they both structurally work the same in that we sort of come in as the show's getting finished. In America, I write with a couple of a guy called Steve Berger, who's like a comic and a good friend of mine. And then this year we got a girl called Caroline Haynes, who's like a up and coming American comic. We just really wanted like a female voice. We got like a younger voice and an American voice.
And are you in the same location?
We're all on Zoom. Caroline's out in Fiji because basically it's really handy to have a writer around the edit. Because it's really, so like normally we just fit our voice in where the space is, but every now and again we might be like doing a joke about, I don't know, like what Kordell's wearing. So we might have to go, so then Caroline can walk into the editor and be like, can you just not reveal that his suit jacket's got no sleeves on it until Ian says there's a sleeve thief on the loose or whatever, you know what I mean, something silly like that. So it's really, obviously, because you know what it's like, anyone that's worked remotely, doing that on Zoom would be like, you have to email it, hey editors, can we have a Zoom meeting in 10 minutes? And they've all busy working, they've got to log in. So having Caroline being able to walk in and give the direction.
Yeah.
And also I think it needs to be a comic as well, because they can give the comic timing of the edit is so important as well.
I mean, you come up with alts for everything? Is there like
Not
three
for
different alts?
So normally we write it all and then it's sent to channel, and and again, I think everyone can get the funny, like the stereotype is like as well, a British like exec meeting is like 3 people gathered around a thing. An American exec meeting is like 27 people from different places and different channels.
Is it like completely different?
Yeah,
in
on
terms of
different
notes?
Zoom calls. Yeah. They're still all amazing. The notes aren't much different, but I think it's just a bigger, more oiled machine sort of thing. Then they come back with notes, and it might be like, we might do a reference that like doesn't do, I mean, we didn't know, or something, even something like might be more like certain things might be more sensitive in America than in the UK.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, we can get away with certain things. America, they're more sensitive about other things. It's like it's really interesting, actually. I think we can definitely be more edgy on the American one, but then they're a lot more careful around like even light references to like religion or whatever. They'd be like, even using like, oh my God or something. It's like sort of funny.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
different.
you're never going to be like, God doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, of course not, because he does. Because he does. All of them. They all do. All of them exist.
Yes, exactly.
All 500 gods exist. Please don't send me any messages. I'm so sorry.
So
They all exist and they're all great.
You get the
And
edit.
sometimes the other ones don't exist, depending on what you think. And I agree with that.
Well, this show is canceled, so that's good.
On paper, that's bulletproof what I just said. The journalists can convey tone, and that's why it's a great thing.
So they'll leave the spaces.
If that makes it, I'll be so proud of you guys.
It'll make it. They'll leave the spaces in the edit where you come in. And
Yes.
what is that? And especially, I guess, in the beginning of finding that working relationship of putting your humor in there, and then obviously you're watching this show. Did you start becoming a fan of the show? Of like, oh, this is actually starting to get really fun to
Like,
write
I mean,
these.
I'd like to think I've been doing it long enough that I don't need to like lie, because but genuinely, we did the first few series of the UK one, we did a thing called a dry run where we literally put in like people that aren't going to be in the show, and then it just gives everyone a practice run. So we literally have a 3-day practice where people go in and they're just on Love Island, but it's not on telly. It's sort of crazy. It's
That's
mad.
amazing.
And if you think the people on the show get up to no good, imagine if they know it's not televised.
Oh my God, they do dry runs on Love Island?
Yeah, well, not that dry in some cases.
That stays in the show too. That stays in the show. Yeah.
No, just really, it's more for like us to practice like turning over an entire show in a day and all that sort of stuff. And then it all gets taken down. Because I mean, some of the shots, there's people still building sets and stuff. But anyway, from the minute I watched that first dry run in the UK, I was like, this is brilliant. Like the girls coming down and the guys are lined up and they pick the person and they step forward if they like them. I was like, this is brilliant. So I've always really loved it from the second I got in there. I was sort of relieved as well because you get in day one and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, then it becomes like a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
How precious are you? Because I imagine if you're working that quickly, you can't be precious with everything that you're writing.
Yeah,
or everything
I
that
think
you're saying.
I think I've got loads better. I think I am precious because and I do like to stick up for jokes. Like there's also a reason for it. Like I like to, if they want to take a joke out, I like to stick up for it as well. Partly because if I feel like it's almost admitting wrongdoing. Like you want to at least defend it. So if you go, oh, I've done this joke, and they go, well, that's offensive, and you go, oh, okay, that means you're sort of going, yeah, I know that was offensive. Whereas if you want to sort of reply and go, well, okay, but I think it's not because of this, and I have actually. I wouldn't just say something horrific about, I've thought it through for these reasons, and they go, still no, and I go, fine. But yeah, so I like to think that, but it's worked out really well as well, because as a comic, what was amazing is on the UK one, I worked with a guy called Mark, who actually came up with the format and sort of writes for these guys called Ant and Dec, who are like Ryan Seacrest split in two, basically.
Oh, wow.
They're like, yeah, they're amazing guys, and he writes for them, and they do. He's brilliant, basically. But it was great. He's like 20 years of experience. So as a new comic, my initial reaction was like, he's an idiot. What are they doing?
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa. But the point he made is, you go that day one. We're here 8 weeks. Where did you go from there? So then we found a really nice way of like being supportive and kind. Because like I do really love those people, and I really respect them for being able to do that. And like, because I couldn't. Well,
that's what I was going to ask. I mean, I know you're happily married, but like, would you have ever at 21 years old ever decided to go on a reality television show?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I just don't think I've got the constitution for it, really. I just don't. And also, I feel like there's some people who don't really like, for whatever reason, they don't like get a spark or whatever. And it's just like every day you're in there, you've chatted to everyone, no one likes you, and the next day it's like, well, you better start talking to everyone again, because that's the whole point of you being here. And I just wouldn't. I would like crumble.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, and also I don't have the abs and I have man boobs, so like that wouldn't work
Me
for
too.
me. Yeah, right. I always feel bad for the people that don't have the six pack, you know? Like
I know.
Oh,
they occasionally some get in, and do you know what? They normally do really well, those guys, to be fair. But like,
I mean, the Davide season, I'm like, this guy's like lifting 100 pounds every like minute.
This guy looked like the actual Da Vinci. Like, what's that one where he's got no arms and a little Mickey? What's that?
Yeah,
what's that? What's that?
David?
David.
Yeah, David. Yeah.
It's actually David.
David.
David came to life.
The villa.
Yeah.
So you're writing these things. You actually learn to start being specific through the process, because this is a long gig. How long does the actual recording then take? And then when you throw USA on it and both shows are running at once, what is your day-to-day schedule?
So 12 noon, I'll start on the UK one. And like I said, it takes it depends, but like anything like 2 to 3 hours to like write it all. And then we record it all. And that'll take like an hour. And then when I was in Spain, the hardest thing was you just sort of had to wait for like notes. So we'd just be hanging around. But now I'm at home, I can like spend time with the family. And if I need to shoot back, I can go back to the studio and record. And then they'll be signed off that about 6 o'clock at night, completely, 6 p.m. And then it'll be like dinner, family, child to bed. And then 8:30, I think, we started on the US one. And I'd done the US one through to 3 in the morning.
8:30 at night, you start the US one. Oh my God.
Up until 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning. I can't remember now. I was so tired. and then up again 9 o'clock.
Rinse,
to,
repeat.
Like,
Yeah. And the UK one, just for the people that don't realize, that lasts like 2 or 3 weeks more than the US one.
Yeah, I think the US one was a bit shorter this year. I think it was. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was an Olympics thing. I think Peacock have Olympics as well, so I think it was to fit it in before like the Olympics. Because that would have been a funny. Them going head to head would have been hilarious.
Olympics. And then Love Island USA beats the Olympics every night on
Imagine
Peacock.
that. That would be a horrible indictment of society.
I think we're there. Yeah, I think we're there.
I think there was a fact in Love Island Height that they said in the UK more people applied for Love Island than applied for Oxford and Cambridge universities.
Amazing.
Which is
And
great.
now, by the way, your career path, there's not going to be any lawyers. People are going to start off lawyers and then want to move to the stand-up and do the Ian Stirling path.
Yeah.
Love Island USA is still really being talked about so much over here because those kids became superstars.
Yes.
I mean, Leah went in with like 17,000 Instagram followers, and now she has like she's on the Kardashian level.
Has she got that many?
Yes.
She needs to tag me in some posts, man.
That's what I was going to.
I didn't realize it was that much. Leah, Ian does jokes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Rob too. Yeah, get Rob in
Oh
there
my
as well.
God, I'm obsessed with Rob's socials, by the way.
Isn't he great? Like,
He still does this whole snake thing.
Yeah, I thought the snake thing was a bit. It turns out he really loves to play with snakes.
He was holding a copperhead the other day, and he was like, "This one's pretty poisonous." And it turned around and tried to bite him.
Oh, I love every woman in the villa. He'd be like, "Do you want to come catch snakes with me someday?" And they
So
would all
whenever-
be like, "Yeah." There was the one episode where he had like the spider on his hand.
my
and
God,
I was
yeah.
like, "What is going on?" I mean, for you, is that like golden when you see something like that? Because you're like, "Oh, this writes itself."
When someone's like, are you joking? Yeah, when someone's like a snake wrangler as a joke, as a job, you're like, anything that I can do puns. 1 year, it will never be beaten. There was a guy that there's a fishmonger. He sold fish on the UK one.
Yep.
And honestly, you think of it in your head. You have no idea how many fish puns there are. There are so many. There are so many. So like, and then I just screamed, "The man sells fish," every time I done a pun about him. And I think he still has people come up to him in the street and be like, "The man sells fish."
You've ruined his life. Now.
We had one guy, but it's so funny how you can like change the narrative. Like we had one guy who was chatting to a girl, and he was only on the show for like 3-4 days, and he didn't really say much. But at one point, he said, "Oh, what's your favorite snack or something?" And we just made it out that he was obsessed with snacks. So like every time he came on, we were like, he's just been asking the camera guy what his favorite snack is. And then the guy came out and must have been thinking, I wonder what everyone's going to be talking about. Like, is it my abs or like when I talk to Claire? And everyone was just like, "You love snacks, man." He's like, "Nah." He's like, "I never mentioned it. I've literally never mentioned it. What are you talking about?" But it was really fun to like change the narrative like that.
So finally, this thing hit in USA so hard this season, and it was really like part of me, because I was like, well, I was watching the UK version, and I felt like all badass because I'm watching something a lot of you guys don't even know about here in America.
Yeah.
And even though they had Love Island USA, it was going along, it was moving along. Last season was good. You got Bergie out of it that went and did The Traitors, but then this season, it hit so hard. What do you attribute that to? And like, as you're doing the voiceover, are you going like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing"?
I think there's a few reasons. I think one of the first ones is genuinely Peacock were like so good at going like we know how we want it to look and feel, and like sort of like more similar to like the British one, but with that like, and then by doing that for a few years, they found out a way of doing that in like a really American way. So like props to Peacock for going like, we're going to do it different to what it was getting done before. I think obviously Ariana being on it is like,
that's what I was going to ask, what you thought of Ariana.
Well, I think she's amazing, and I'm also quite lucky to the way she is as a host is like great for me, because like one, she put loads of eyes on the show, and then she was brilliant, and two, and also she like genuinely really cares. Like you can sort of smell it off someone if they're like if it's a payday for them or whatever, but she like clearly is obsessed.
Oh, dude, I used to have conversations with her back. I'm a little friendly with her, and she watched every Love Island Australia. She watched everything. We would talk about the show and just how obsessed she was.
I wasn't there, so I don't know this as a fact, but she was on like Love Island After Sun like every week. But I'm pretty sure that wasn't like in her. I mean, again,
she wanted to do it.
No, I'm pretty sure this wasn't in her contract or anything. I think she just came every week.
Yes.
Ariana Madix just showed up for free. I don't know, but she was just like, if you want me, I'll do it. Like,
Yeah,
do you know
I'm
what I mean?
here, yeah.
Like a kid with a ball wanting to play with someone. I'll play.
It was a that was her dream gig. Like, and it was so awesome to see her knock it out of the park. And she brought in that Vanderpump Rules audience. But then once that happened, I mean, those characters were amazing.
Yeah, so that was the next thing as well. It's like, I think you need main characters in that show. Like, it's really important. And if you're lucky, like I've done like 15 plus series. If you're lucky, you get like 3.
Yeah.
And they had like the 5 final girls were like, I've never seen it before. Where like every girl was like, you could have a whole episode about them and it wouldn't feel. And when you've got that many main characters and you all buy into them, you can cut through the stories so much quicker. So it feels a lot more fast paced, whereas normally there'd be like one story that would like go on for like forever, which is still great. But like, do you know what I mean? There's only people maybe can tune out and then tune back in. Whereas this year it was like, who's doing what? What's going on? It was mad.
Yeah, there was
Rob's like hiding under a pool for no reason.
Oh,
it's like
that episode, like hiding from the camera, like being like a mopey person. And then his friendship with Aaron.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
I mean, that was like, there's them sitting out by the dock together, like, bro, it's going to be okay, bro. Like,
it's so good.
You get to watch all of those relationships form, and we'll take this season before we go back to other seasons. And it was so exciting for the American audience because I think they finally got to see what makes this show work. Why you brought up the female aspect of it, which to me, I think Love Island is such a pro-female show where these relationships, once you get to Casa Amor, the guys are always going to make the dumbest decisions ever.
Silliest decisions.
Yeah, nobody's ever. And like, I mean, they did a whole montage of like them skippity-doo-dah with their like luggage getting out of there and, like celebrating going to Casa Amor. And they always fall into that trap where then, by movie night, it is just all over.
Yep.
But to me, and I wondered if you felt this way, is that it really does highlight women's stories so much more, and we got into all of the friendships of those core women.
Yeah, well, it shows how that's not really reflected much on television, and that's why people were so keen to see that element of the thing. And again, that's where America are amazing because they pivoted and went on to that. A lot of the time in Love Island, it's about relationships, which is why the show works, because every film, every sitcom, everything has to have a love story. But we've got 90 of them, and we get rid of all the fluff that no one cares about. But they pivoted and they talked about those women and talked about them chatting about things. And I find it like it must be really informative. And like there's a amazing writer in the UK called Caitlin Moran, and she's like really highly respected, unbelievable author, and she was saying how like she would watch it with her daughters and be like, this is how you like in relationships, this will happen and that'll happen. It's like a great education as well.
You never let them go to Casa. That's never.
If your boyfriend says he's going to Casa, you say, we live in London. What are you talking about?
I love when they get to Casa. Their big defense on the way back is like, it's an experiment. It's the show that we got to test the relationship.
Testing their relationship. I used to did a big joke on one of the British series once where it was like, I was like testing being clean of alcohol by drinking a litre of whiskey. I was testing my dad's car by driving it into this wall.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what I can withstand to know how to go into the future.
Yeah, and it's really fun, isn't it? And I mean, it sort of shows as well that even when they mess up, they can bring it back. And I watch it sometimes. It teaches me stuff about like honesty and like in relationships. Sometimes you might like not lie, but like slightly massage the truth to like make it more palatable at the time. But you're always going to get found out eventually, and it also shows you like someone like Rob, for example, who could be like. For all he was always very upfront with people and sort of laid out his stall. And he's maybe not the best example because that series was so crazy, but like there's people that you can get away with a lot if you are very open and honest with people at the very get-go. And I think it's the people that try and like either get caught up in the moment, maybe drop the I love you a bit too soon, and then they've like got a backpedal and it's just awful. And it's just young people making mistakes.
Looking at you, Aaron and Taylor, yeah.
But they're just young, aren't they? Like I also find it mad people like, oh, another one's broken up. I'm like, they're in their 20s. Yes. Yeah. Everyone breaks up in their 20s. That's literally what you do. Yeah. If you don't break up in your 20s, then you're married in your 40s wishing you'd broken up in your 20s.
Yeah, they know exactly. By the way, I feel like they need to actually like do reunions like 15 years down the line with the same cast.
That would be so good.
Right? And like just throw them back in.
I think they should do a reunion like a bit like another reunion a bit later when everything's like a bit settled and everyone knows what's going on and stuff.
Exactly.
That'd be so cool.
Because this cast came out, and like I said, they were like all of a sudden the Beatles of reality television, and nothing prepares you for this. And like, you know, I've talked with a lot of the Love Island USA cast on the show, and they were even talking about, you know, we have, you know, therapists, or I don't think they call it therapists there, because there's so much to deal with. And then you come out, and all of a sudden you're celebrities. You go in and you want that, you want the Instagram followers, but then the reality of that is so insane.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot, man. And I really do feel for those people, and I do really feel like I would love, because like you want to keep that sort of like hunger and fire for the show alive, but there is a thing where you've got to remember they're just people that like they've no idea what's going on. So people get sort of just think you've got to like. I almost look at them like characters at the time when they're in that villa. They're like characters. They're not human
there are
beings.
Sims.
Yeah, they're Sims, and you wouldn't get angry. You wouldn't direct message a Sim. I'd be mad.
Yeah. And then direct message a Sim something so insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, well, what poor Kendall had to go through coming out of
Yeah, I
there.
mean that's absolutely wild. That
Going to the UK version, I started with the Ekin-Su season.
My wife presented that series. It was so great. Oh my god.
I mean, that was another one that was like, to me, a magical season where
This guy, for those who haven't watched it, there's a guy called Davide, and he's Italian, and he's got the thickest Italian accent, but he's sort of spoken like with like really like Britishisms, and it was so funny. He was like screaming like, "You're a liar,
actress,
get the fuck out."
And then they actually.
And then what's funny is they had these massive arguments, but it's a villa, so he'd be like, "Get the fuck out," and then she'd have to like walk over there, and they'd be like in the same room.
Ekin-Su is a character though that like made it over here. I mean, she appeared on The Traitors as well, and now she's going on and saying like Davide wanted to like fake this engagement and got into a fight with my mom. Do you keep track of these Islanders?
Do you know what? I don't really, if I'm being completely honest, because there are certain ones that I do, but like it's just I mean I'm in the hundreds of Islanders now. Do you know what I mean? I'm like yeah. So there's early doors when it was really new. I made friends with a few of them. Like there's Alex and Olivia from Series 2 UK. I like went to their wedding, done a little bit at their wedding. Yeah. They're like married, kids, all that sort of shiz now. So ones from the early series I did, because I used to go to the final when I went out to Spain, and I was like in my 20s and like I was sort of friends with them, and it was like really.
That's what I was wondering, like if you like had to like stop yourself from like hanging out with Islanders at a certain point.
Yeah, well, I think I didn't stop myself. I feel like the Islanders might have stopped themselves. What's this 34-year-old man?
Ian wants to hang out again. Yeah.
Hey, yo, dudes. Do you know? Have you heard of Sabrina Carpenter?
Yeah. I love your overalls, Rob. Yeah,
yeah, that sort of thing. And I think we all just move into different parts of our life. But I do like to keep I mean, I'd know them, and if I saw them out and about, I'd obviously like chat to them. And I feel like if I met the American cast now this year, it feels, because they sort of time stamp like significant points in my life. Because like this year, I was like in Ireland as well, and like out in the sticks of Ireland with my family when this was all kicking off, and like when that online feedback starts to trickle down, you're like, this is massive, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is genuinely so exciting. And because it's America, as Brits, so like America is like dead exciting. Like I've New York's like mine and my wife's favorite place to come. But even when we go to New York, I'm still like, it's like meeting a celebrity. I'm like, you were in Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean?
Why? That's what I imagine the VMAs last night. I mean, that's got to be insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was out so far away.
Yeah, well, it was like a hockey rink, and
something like that. But my God, what an event! And the amount of pop stars at it was like mental.
I mean, every pop star was in that building. If that building, like we would lose all of our pop stars if something happened to that building.
The minute I knew I was old was when Lisa was performing. Is it Lisa? She was in a K-pop band and then she went solo.
Blackpink, yeah.
Lisa, and it was sick. Like, it was amazing. And I was like, who is this up-and-comer? I'm going to search her on Instagram. And I even thought, maybe I'll do a story about her, give her a little 109 million followers. And I was like, I am so old.
She needs the help, just like Leah.
She was looking at me going, look at that lovely old man. Maybe
Wait, so you haven't met the USA cast yet?
Never, because I've been in the UK. I've only been over here for
I
like
figured
4 or
they
5
were all
days.
at the VMAs last night.
I didn't run into them. I was too busy hanging out with housewives and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're big with Teresa now.
Yeah.
I also want to point out you are a writer and an actor. You just had a series, was it Buffering?
Yeah.
Over there. And what is that process for you? And I was wondering, because you couldn't have planned the career that you have now. Do you even bother making plans? Are you a vision board guy? Are you like, this is what I want next?
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny you say that because like the sitcom, I wrote this sitcom called Buffering, and like that was like obviously a massive thing, and being able to do like being able to do the 2 series and bring it full circle and all that felt great. So that was like a real moment. And then after that, I do feel like I fell into like a slight plateau, and especially being a comedian, it's so difficult because I'm like got really like very fortunate, I have like a really lovely home life, and like Love Island's such a like secure, but then that doesn't breed good comedy. So I feel like that's one of the reasons I'm coming out here again as well. As I like stand-up. What's great about stand-up is like it's always like the thing that I want to do and strive to get better at and do all that. And like I'm come from like a really like a working class background, so like my dad was always obsessed with me getting a trade. Like, do you know,
exactly.
Like that was my thing. So like stand-up sort of become like a trade because like in telly anything can happen. You can be in favor, you can fall out of favor. But if you go into a room of 100 people and you're really funny, the 100 people will hopefully come back next year. So it's like that's your job, right? So yeah, the vision board and all that is like definitely the stand-up. The amazing thing about America is like it just means I've got more people see my stand-up, and that's ultimately what I want to do. So I'm working on the show at the minute, and then doing this tour obviously, and doing these shows, and then I'll record that. And what's amazing is before you sort of had to wait for like a TV channel or a streamer to like buy it and do stuff with it. But now you just make it.
Yeah.
And if a streamer wants it, cool. And if not, you put it on like YouTube or your website, and you probably get more people watching it than if it was on a streamer that not everyone's got. Do you know
it's
what I mean?
crazy how it is now. I mean, you can actually create your own content, create your own destiny in a lot of ways, and actually be able to learn doing your own thing.
And you make it exactly how you want to make it. And then, like I said, I think I was talking to like a comic in the US who was like making a really good, like really well-known guy, and he was just sort of making the point of, he was like, now a streamer would have to say, we'll pay you this much to lower your audience, which is mad. Because if he puts something on YouTube, it'll get less than if it's on Netflix. So like, he's like just a guy, and literally Netflix will be like, okay, we're going to cut your audience, but we'll supplement that monetary. It's like, it's 5 years ago, if you said it to someone 5 years ago, you would never have believed it.
No, not at all. And you also have Murder They Wrote, the podcast.
Man.
With your wife, Laura Whitmore, which, by the way, how did you guys meet?
Well, we work in the sort of the same industry. So she was actually presenting an award at the Children's BAFTAs, and I won. I mean, my life has moved on a lot since then, but I won Best Children's Presenter at the BAFTAs. To give you an idea how not suited to kids' TV I was, when I won Best Children's Presenter at the BAFTA, in my acceptance speech, I told everybody, because it was like £8 a beer. So I told everyone I'd found a room where they were giving away free bottles of wine. That was what I did at my acceptance speech. It's available on YouTube. I was very drunk. And I hadn't tried my suit on before I got to the BAFTAs, and they'd left the security tag on it. So I'd went into a shop to buy cigarettes. This was like 12 years ago. I don't smoke anymore. And I set off the alarm. And then I realised I was on stage drunk with a security tag on my jacket at the BAFTAs. So I maybe wasn't built for kids' TV, I don't think.
Yeah.
But anyway, we met at that, and then we met at like a load of different things, and we it became a friend. The usual became a friendship, and then I persevered.
You did. You hung in there.
Yes.
And obviously she did this so she can start a podcast with you.
That was our only goal.
That was the goal.
But we always, as you can imagine, like being like a couple, we love like there's so many like couples podcasts.
Yeah.
So we used to always get asked to do who's taking out the bins this week pod or whatever. And we were a bit like we like to keep elements of our life like do you know what I mean? Like I like to have that sort of like personal space. So but we love true crime. It's like the one thing we basically Selling Sunset and true crime is like the only things that we
if
can.
we can get somebody on Selling Sunset to murder each other,
oh
you guys
my
have a whole
God,
season right
that
there.
is
Watch out, Oppenheim
Well,
brothers.
I've not finished this series, but it's come pretty close.
I don't want to give it away, but next season's a
that's
murder
its way.
mystery.
I'm not to give it away, but the cast, there's only 4 cast members next year.
Yeah. Chriselle goes nuts.
So we got offered this like true crime thing. And we were like, oh, it's great. And then because we're so busy, sometimes it's like the 1 hour we get to see each other like that day. It's like
Yeah, I was
really
wondering how
nice.
you guys picked the stories, because like you were doing a story with like 1920s or something
Yeah.
like that. Like, who is picking the stories that you were actually?
Well, it's like
focusing
everything.
on?
We've sort of adjusted. We've adjusted loads because like we want to keep it very tasteful and like respectful for the parties involved. But like we do like having like a laugh, and we are like fun people. So like we do tend to try and pick. So we'll have like cases from really long ago, so you can be a bit more lighthearted with them and stuff. And then we've mixed things up now. We do a lot of like heists, and like there's some amazing cases where like there's like a £100 million jewel left in the Millennium Dome, which is like this big building that was built in London for the millennium, and it's like an absolute disaster. And like the way they rob this jewel is like mad, like smoke bombs and like boats coming down the Thames and stuff. It's like wild how it's done. And then we'll mix it in with like we'll deal with more like sort of the Charles Manson and things like that, and try and do more of a deep dive looking at like not even his childhood, but like his mother's childhood and how she came to bring birth to this guy. And that'll be done a lot more reserved and tastefully, and like we've just refined it as we've gone along. But if you like
America loves true crime.
Well, the way I look at it, it's like imagine a couple watching a true crime documentary, chatting about it, and that's sort of how we are doing it. And basically one every week. Now it's mainly we get the cases now because it's obviously thankfully that we've got quite a few people listening.
Yeah.
It's not people just sending suggestions, we just do them. But basically every week Laura will tell me a case and then vice versa.
Yeah, which by the way, so Murder They Wrote You guys, make sure you rate it 5 stars on Apple Pods and Spotify, because I just was made aware of this show. I didn't realize, and I was like, oh my God, you guys have 39 episodes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tell the audience because they're going to love it.
Yeah, no, totally. And we did have, we did another podcast on Spotify before that, which was the same sort of idea, true crime. And we still get people coming up to us being like, are you doing any more of that podcast?
Yeah.
And we're like, we've done 40 more of a new one.
Didn't even know about it. So, I mean,
But that's the mad thing about online, isn't it? It's so amazing. Like, it's such an amazing place, but like, I wonder how people like break through now with all the noise. It's
there's so much
crazy.
to choose from. Like, well, then you go to Love Island, and I'm like, well, there goes my summer. Like, and then
Yeah, that's the other thing. Where'd you find the time?
Oh, I was bitching and moaning. I was like, I have to watch UK, I have to watch US. Nobody's making me watch these shows, by the way. And then I'm like, it is so big. I mean, I'm telling my therapist, I'm like, I'm staying up late at night to watch this. Like, it was every night, man.
He's like, I've got to go. You're like, what's happening? It's 9 o'clock. See you later. Love
and
Island's
then
on.
there was a moment where I was just talking. I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, I'm so sad. I think I might be enjoying USA more than UK this season. I got to that point.
That was the maddest feed. I never thought that day would come.
Me either.
I never thought I'd get sent those social media messages that people prefer US to UK, but like it's getting there, man.
What's this Joey Essex? We can't have like stunt casting with this Joey Essex comes in.
But Joey
there.
Essex was on Selling Sunset.
I figured I was gonna say.
My wife sent me a picture, and I immediately replied, "Oh my God, Joey Essex!" And I also went, "What are you doing watching the show without me?" That was the 2 things I said to my wife when she sent me that picture.
Well, I love that you could see Joey's teeth before you saw it was Joey. I was like, who's that guy with the white teeth?
Yeah, I know. People say that's all British people's teeth look like that now.
Oh, and then
It's because the Americans bullied us into getting all our teeth sorted.
Everybody on Love Island UK does. It's like you don't even need to like that show. It's all the teeth. Just open your mouth.
Yeah, because we don't. Braces like weirdly sort of like aren't a thing in the UK. They are a bit, but you've got to have really like people just sort of let their teeth get a little bit wonky, and then they go to Turkey and get a whole new set.
Yeah. Oh, I'm blanking on the name right now, but who is the gentleman? And I'm on like Reddit threads about. Is this guy powdering his hair? He was in the UK.
Oh, Ronnie. Yeah,
Ronnie,
he uses
yes.
powder, yeah.
And then it was like, we've never seen him go in the pool fully. So
he wouldn't. He was on a podcast. He said, it's really funny. He said it. So he said that he uses powder. And he went, if I didn't use the powder, my hairline would still be in Mallorca.
At least he was...
But fair play.
Yeah.
He just came out and said that's the vibes.
If you could do an all-star season of a UK, US cast, who would you cast on that show? I know that's a difficult question.
No, I mean, get the obvious ones out the way. Mora would obviously be in there. there would be there's a guy from the UK one called Obi who was like unbelievable, like handsome, like basketball player, just like really cool. And he'd go message after every time he got a text, and people lost their minds about that. Rob from the current US series, Berge from last US series.
God, what an innocent soul. I had Bergie on the show a couple of times.
Is he like that? Obviously, again, I've never met him.
And he said, used to manage a Dairy Queen, which is like a popular, and now he's still with the girl that he.
Yeah, I saw that.
They just celebrated their year anniversary, but this guy
nearly
is
done.
He is so. He said no. He's a sweetheart.
No,
and
he's
then he went
lovely.
to do the Traders, and he's just such a kind soul. Where I was like, how did you make it on Love Island at all?
Yeah, I always love it when there's the ones there's no way, and then they find someone, you're like, what? Yeah. And they're always the ones that last, always the ones that last. From Series 1 UK, this is probably old school, but you have to Google them. Although Hannah came back to do the sort of All-Stars this year, there's a guy called John and a girl called Hannah. And Hannah's a former Playgirl bunny. And she's from Liverpool. And she's got like huge Liverpool hair, huge Liverpool boobs. And she'd wear like these insane swimsuits, like bananas. And and then once they got engaged on the show. And after they were engaged, the guys went into a party, and she was dancing with these butlers in the buff, and she was spraying cream on their chest, like licking it off. And her fiance, she's like, "What you getting all moody about? Like, what are you getting moody about? You're his fiance." But yeah, so Hannah and John from Series 1 UK, and he was like a proper Essex. The sort of accent that like all Americans do when they do Love Island. So he's like, "Oh, my name's John. You all right?" And then he would just be her, and she'd have like peacock feathers in her hair for like no reason. They were amazing. So those guys. And there was a Scottish girl called Camilla from Series 3 UK who was amazing. Who again done that same thing of like came in really quiet.
Yeah.
She'd go on Love Island and be like, "What books are you reading at the moment?" And you'd be like, "Oh my God, love, you are screwed here." But she managed to find somebody.
Oh my God, Kendall and Nicole in the USA season, they started bonding over Star Wars like it was like some independent film. They're like, "You watch Star Wars?"
Oh, I know, that's what I
And I was
mean.
like, everybody's seen Star Wars.
You've heard of Star Wars? Nobody's heard of Star Wars.
He's like, "We've bonded over films." I'm
They'd be like,
"What?"
"You drink water? Me too." Oh, do you know? And I forgot her name. That's sorted. I'm so sorry. Who was with Kendall before Nicole? What's that girl's name? She was incredible. I want to have her back.
Liv?
No. She had every time.
Hannah.
Hannah.
Yes.
I would have Hannah.
She got like a way too soon. Yeah.
She's so too soon. I
And
think
that was
she'd be amazing.
remember when Kendall wasn't making out with her and it was
Yeah.
just the white Joker
It was
makeup?
amazing. She was so great.
I don't know how much time I have left. How much time do I have left? Is that, are you okay? Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going nowhere, baby.
All day. All right. I did have to ask just because my girlfriend would kill me if I didn't. In the last couple of weeks, she has been crying nonstop because
Okay.
I
think I know what's coming
is in love with Molly May.
Right. Yeah. Who isn't?
Yeah. So she's had to explain the power, the legend. She's like, no, she's an influencer still in this. And then, of course, Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
This whole thing where they're no longer together.
Yes.
Can you comment on the Molly May Tommy Fury at all?
No. Yeah, can I? I mean, I don't really like to, just because there's children involved.
Yeah.
They're married.
Bambi, right?
And and I just think, I mean, I know them both really well. They're both like really lovely, genuine people. I do a thing called Soccerade in the UK, which is like a big charity football match, which Tommy does every year. And he's like such a good sport. He's not the best footballer, neither am I, but he still goes along and does it and raises so much money for UNICEF, which is like an amazing thing to do. So I wish them both all the best. It's just sad, isn't it? It's just sad when a lovely young couple break up. So I just feel like I wish them all the best, I guess. That's like all you can do really in that situation.
Why do you think people love Molly May so much?
I think she probably is attached to that. Like, I think she's got that star quality where she would have probably been a star regardless. But that particular series of Love Island was such a crazy summer for UK. There was like a summer of like sort of like pre-everything, like like this sort of like all the awful things that are happening in the UK at the minute. That was sort of predated that the football was on the telly. England were doing relatively well in the World Cup. Molly and Tommy were together. And I think it reminds them of like a happy time.
Yeah.
It's like when I hear an Arctic Monkeys album and I'm like, oh yeah, do you remember being drunk at university? Like, it was amazing. So I think she sort of reminds people of that. And then also she's just like really good at her job. Because that's one thing I will say. If anyone makes fun of influencers, try and be an influencer for a day. It is horrific. Oh, it's so hard.
The fact that they have to look at themselves all the time.
And listen to themselves.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that thing where you've like heard your own voice back on a voicemail and you're like, why would anyone be friends with you?
No, it's the worst. It's
so
absolutely
horrible.
The worst. Okay, so I'm glad my girlfriend will be happy that I asked that. And then okay, stand-up shows, once again, the Gramercy on the 21st. Now, this thing will sell out, but get your tickets now. And I was on StubHub. They're pricey, but on the 22nd, I think there's like 3 tickets on StubHub. It's like Taylor Swift Eras Tour with you.
I reckon if you're in Brooklyn, show up on the day.
Just show up on the day.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
What is the stand-up focus on for this set?
This year's show is sort of like a progression. It's sort of that funny juxtaposition of like being the voice of Love Island and then also being like a dad. Yeah. And like the sort of how do you do both of those things and how does it work? And like I think also there's a lot of talk for me in this special about me and my wife both work in the public eye, and it's sort of like both on the standard set for women compared to men is like hilariously skewed. Like,
yeah, I know. I was watching you're like, we expect you to breastfeed, but don't do it in public.
Yeah. So like, but basically being a dad is like, I had no idea what a home run it would be because you just have to keep, if your child's like alive and dressed, you're like seen as like this hero. Whereas a mum, it's like, like you said, you've got to like have a baby and get back to work and be thin and also be a mum and look great and the new one is like you've got to put pictures up. I've seen people who don't put pictures up of their kids on Instagram. People are like, do you even spend time with your? And like, what? And then you've got to cover their face with an emoji. So now you're just taking a frog to the soft pot. It's so weird.
I have so many friends that do the emoji.
No one has ever come up to me and been like, "There's not many pictures of your child on Instagram." But if you're a woman, it's just like, "Excuse me."
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that, and it's the same in the public eye. Like the way I'm talked about compared to like how my wife's talked about is like sort of like wild.
Wait, how are you? What is the difference?
Well, it's more. If any woman that's worked in the public eye will know that it's just that the sort of scrutiny you put under for like how you look, what you do, how you behave, and then like men, it's just like you can just like even like going out, you can just put on like if you like iron a t-shirt. It'll be like, looking suave in his t-shirt.
What a talented man. Yeah. I mean, even the men of Love Island, like Rob and those guys are like Aaron going off and pouting after like the Kaler situation. And everybody's like, I love him still.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that show.
So a lot of that and then just stories about my life and just trying to get stuff done and failing miserably. Yeah.
And failing miserably.
Yeah. That's what you're only a comic if things go wrong.
Wow.
Otherwise you do TED Talks.
I would love to see your TED Talk. Also, the podcast Murder They Wrote, and I'm telling you, it's probably huge over there, but I want it to be huge over here. So remember, rate it 5 stars. I know that sounds crazy, but it's really important because in Apple and Spotify, it helps you with your placement so people can actually discover the show. Yeah. Your 2025 tour is pretty much sold out overseas.
Yeah.
We're waiting for a new series from you.
Yes.
So hopefully you're getting on that.
Yeah.
Hey, would you ever do, are you in American auditions and things like that? Are they like shopping you around a pilot season?
I would love to do some more we just love it here as a family, so I'd love to do more stuff in America, definitely.
God, it would be amazing. So thank you.
I'm gonna do the voice of, like I said, we're gonna do all the new documentaries.
that's what
Storage Hunters. I'm gonna do the voice of that.
I will say if you do that, I will be suing for at least 10%.
You can have 10. You can have 10.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you for providing me with hours of enjoyment. Honestly, I know you get this all the time, but you really have made my summers better, and you just make me laugh my ass off, and I can't wait for you guys to go see his stand-up show. Ian Stirling, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, man. That's so kind of you. Cheers. Thanks, listeners and watchers.
Tonight.
Tonight.
Was that okay?
Oh, it was amazing.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Dude, thanks so much for all the time. Was that okay?
That was wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you'd like